Willie, will start on yesterday's move by Nancy Pelosi that is being called unprecedented.
Yeah, House Speaker Nancy Pelosi rejected two of Minority Leader Kevin McCarthy's picks for the Select Committee tasked with investigating the January 6th attack on the United States Capitol. Now, McCarthy is threatening a complete boycott. NBC News Capitol Hill correspondent Garrett Haake has details.
A committee in chaos.
It's an egregious abuse of power. Pelosi has broken this institution.
Republican leader Kevin McCarthy withdrawing all of his selections for the January 6th special committee after Speaker Pelosi announced she would reject two of his choices for the panel. Republicans now calling the committee a sham, while Democrats vow to push ahead.
We have a bipartisan quorum. We can proceed.
The Speaker writing that her unprecedented decision to not seat Ohio's Jim Jordan or Indiana's Jim Banks was necessary to protect the integrity of the investigation.
The fact that she has rejected two recommendations for two members who have indicated that they are not supportive of the objective of the Select Committee is consistent with how serious this committee is and how important it is to have patriots serving on this committee, not partisans.
Now, just one Republican remains on the committee, Wyoming's Liz Cheney, appointed by the Speaker alongside 7 Democrats, defending the investigation to come.
This must be an investigation that is focused on facts, and the idea that any of this has become politicized is really unworthy of the office that we all hold and unworthy of our republic.
Garrett Haake reporting from Capitol Hill for us there. Joining us now, co-founder of Punchbowl News, Jake Sherman. He's an MSNBC political contributor, White House reporter for the Associated Press, Jonathan Lemire doing yeoman's work on Way Too Early this week, and member of the New York Times editorial board, Mara Gay. Good morning to all of you. Jake, let me start with you and what we saw on Capitol Hill yesterday. Perhaps predictable that it was going to go this way when Jim Jordan was placed on the committee. But what strikes me sitting here is Republicans are acting like 2 months ago they did not have the chance to create the very commission that they're lamenting is not being created here, which is a 9/11 style commission. Only 6 Republicans in the Senate made that vote. It wasn't enough to clear the 60-vote threshold to create a commission, and it failed. And now here we are with this Select Committee, which is falling apart before our eyes. What's going on here? What happens next?
So what happens next, Willie, is that we have an all-Democratic panel. That's what happens next.
Plus Liz Cheney.
Plus Liz Cheney. That's exactly right. Appointed by Nancy Pelosi, who said yesterday she believes McCarthy should never be Speaker, and she agreed with Pelosi's decision to remove Jim Banks and Jim Jordan from the committee. So, you know, I don't know what the politics of this are. I think, to be honest with you, Willie, if I had to kind of read the lines here from the pure political angle, I'll talk about the substantive in a second. The pure political angle, they both kind of got what they wanted, right? I mean, I think McCarthy didn't want to participate in this and wouldn't have created it on his own volition, quite obviously. And he's not participating in it now. It's a shame because this, again, shouldn't be a partisan issue because as somebody who was there that day, it was a tragic incident. That's number one. Number two, what you said, Willie, is the key point. Republicans are complaining about things that they had in their power to put in place. They voted against a bipartisan committee, a committee in which they would have had complete veto power over every subpoena, over everything that the committee did. So they threw that opportunity away several months ago, and now here we are. They say they're going to do their own investigation, and Willie, they said yesterday, McCarthy, Banks, Jordan, and all those guys on the committee, and they're all men, which a lot of people noticed in the Capitol. What they said is that their top priority is why wasn't the Capitol better prepared? That's a fair question to be asking in the scheme of things. I would not say that's a lot of people's top priorities, generally speaking. McCarthy pointed to the Senate investigation, which has been ongoing. Clearly, he's not very interested, and he said this. He doesn't want a committee with Pelosi.
And, of course, Jonathan Lemire, Mitch McConnell 2 months ago whipped votes against the creation of a bipartisan 9/11-style commission to look into this. So yesterday, when you have Minority Leader McCarthy standing there talking about the sanctity of the people's house and what Nancy Pelosi, rolling your eyes is the minimum. They had the chance, Republicans had the chance to do the kind of investigation that they're talking about, and they want us to forget that they passed on it.
Yeah, we've just hit upon the deeply cynical play that this is. Now the Republicans are going to emerge from this with their own report, which they will put up as a co-equal to what the Pelosi's and the Democrat plus Liz Cheney committee is going to do. And they'll say, look, two different versions of the truth. And they will try to water it down. It's more the same sort of obscuring and trying to, the fog machine as to what happened on January 6th that continues the pattern from Republicans downplaying the severity of that day, which, by the way, we seemingly get new video every day that underscores just how harrowing it was and how much worse it could have been had it not for a little bit of luck and some heroism from some Capitol Police officers. But this is just going to become another political talking point, and they're going to try to turn the page on this as quickly as they can, bury it, say, oh, it's just Washington politics again. And despite pressure from the White House for this to happen, despite pressure, Democrats going into it seemingly with a real good faith effort, a bipartisan attempt to get to the bottom of what happened to try to prevent something like this from happening again, Republicans not going to play ball. And it's just going to lead to more and more Americans just shrugging their shoulders and saying, look, this is why Washington is so broken.
So here is more from Republican Congresswoman Liz Cheney yesterday about Minority Leader Kevin McCarthy's threat to pull his picks for the January 6th Select Committee.
The rhetoric that we have heard from the Minority Leader is disingenuous. The attack on this building on January 6th was the worst attack on this Capitol since 1814. It was an attack on our Constitution. The American people deserve to know what happened. The people who did this must be held accountable. There must be an investigation that is nonpartisan, that is sober, that is serious, that gets to the facts wherever they may lead. And at every opportunity, the Minority Leader has attempted to prevent the American people from understanding what happened, to block this investigation.
McCarthy, of course, wants to become Speaker next year. Do you think that he deserves to be Speaker in the aftermath of his actions here?
I think that any person who would be third in line to the presidency must demonstrate a commitment to the Constitution and a commitment to the rule of law. And Minority Leader McCarthy has not done that.
So, Mara Gay, I see two strains here in this country, two strains of division and a lack of respect for basic truth that could ultimately lead to the rubber meeting the road for Republicans. I know for the entire Trump presidency, we kept hearing, this is it, this is it, this is it. But I do think these two strains could be it. And I'm wondering if this editorial would make it through the New York Times editorial board. But you have a basic impossibility on Capitol Hill with the two members that were ruled out of the committee by Nancy Pelosi because of a basic commitment to truth about what happened on January 6th, that it was an insurrection, that it was violent, that it was an attack on our democratic process. There's that basic truth that is being debated, which is an impossibility. You can't debate the truth. And then you have the truth about COVID and this Delta variant that is isolating the lies and the conspiracy theories, again, under the umbrella of Trump, January 6th and COVID. And I think this may be where the rubber meets the road for Republicans who appear to be running for cover on COVID. Do you agree?
Oh, Mika, it's what you lay out is, of course, exactly what's happening in this country. The unfortunate part is that so many times we've talked about it, you and I mean, we think that the dam is going to break, and it just hasn't. And I think that's why Liz Cheney is playing such a crucial role, because her presence on this committee, which should be far more bipartisan and robust in that way than it is proof positive that this is a serious task to really get to the bottom of what happened on January 6th, and that this is not about partisanship, but of course is about protecting democracy. I think, unfortunately, what we're seeing is just another step, another touchstone of the Republican Party's slow walk away from democracy and toward just an interest in sheer power. The frustrating thing is that because of the right-wing media juggernaut that is helping pump this disinformation into the eyes and minds and ears of so many Americans, they can kind of run, the party can run on these fumes for much longer than it otherwise would. So the amount of disinformation I think that Americans are receiving is vast. And we're not talking about different points of view. We are talking about untruths, lies. And in this case, they're very dangerous, that vaccines could be dangerous, that COVID isn't that big of a deal, or that, fellow Americans are against you somehow. All of these things are lies, and they're very dangerous. So that's kind of what democracy is up against. The Democratic Party cannot do this alone. We need a multi-party democracy. We need competition in elections and in this country. And so as long as the Republican Party, as long as its members truly are getting away electorally with behaving this way, our democracy is in real trouble. The fact that they don't feel a need to take part in this very basic exercise of defending the Capitol and those who were there that day should really set off alarm bells for the rest of the country. And Liz Cheney should not be standing alone here. This is kind of an all hands, this is what we call a 5-alarm fire in New York for democracy.